I'm Jackie Ware.
And I'm Jacob Kosior, and you're watching
Episode 13 of On Air with Jackie Ware. Welcome. Today on Air with Jackie Ware, we're exploring how centralization is transforming property management and what it means for operators, teams, and our residents. Joining me is Jacob Kosior, Vice President of Client Strategy at EliseAI, who works with companies nationwide to turn technology and data into real business impact. Thank you for joining us today, Jacob.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're looking forward to getting into it. Let's jump right into your background. So, Jacob, can you share your journey into multifamily and how your experiences shaped the way you think about client strategy today?
Yeah. So I've had a little bit of a unique background. I came into multifamily while I was in grad school for urban planning. I wanted to be a real estate developer. And then when I was in school, I realized, this is maybe a little bit slower moving business than I would like to be in. Thankfully, while I was in grad school, I had a part-time job. I worked for a rental brokerage in Chicago, and we had a series of engagements where developers would hire my team to come in and do the leasing, specifically just the leasing, to focus on managing the prospects, getting them in, leasing up the building as quickly as possible, and then working with our property management counterparts when somebody was ready to apply and move in. And looking back now, I see that as a really early version of centralization. We had specialized teams doing specialized work, cut ahead 15 years down the road. And now I'm a former client of EliseAI, so that's now working with the company to help operators implement AI tools to change how they work and facilitate centralization. My most recent role before joining Elise was I led a centralized services team at Cardinal Group. We're about a 45,000 unit operator out of Denver, Colorado. And my whole kind of approach to property management throughout my career has been, how can we make this a more attractive industry for the people who are working in it? As well, I'm sure we'll get to today, we've seen continued turnover since COVID. And one of the ways that I found that we can solve that is just creating new, specialized, interesting roles that better align with what our team members want to do so that we can keep those people in the industry and give them some new skills, managing new technologies to help bolster the business while also bolstering what they can do professionally.
I love that. And I think that really leans a lot into your client strategy and obviously your experienced users' satisfaction as well. So that's a great background that really melds well with your current position. So for our listeners who may not be familiar with EliseAI's versions from transforming property management, and how does centralized fit into that vision?
Yeah. At a high level, EliseAI, we're an AI and automation company serving the housing industry. Right now, we're live at more than 4.2 million units across the US and Canada, helping more than 600 owners and operators leverage AI to either automate some aspect of their operations or support their centralized business model. And in my past role, when I was using EliseAI's tools, I framed it to my team as AI tools are there to just, number one, baseline, bring down the volume of work that our team members have to do. There is this fear around AI, but I would introduce it to my teams as easy as it wasn't too long ago where our team members were going in and calculating, here's the late fee based on the calculation. I'm going to go manually post it on the ledger. That was automated a long time ago with just automated calculations, posting it. Now with AI, we're able to take that a couple steps further to say, once we post that late fee on the ledger, can't the AI just reach out to that resident to let them know or explain the charges on their ledger or direct them on how to pay? And so with AI, we can bring down the volume of work that lends itself to rethinking, well, what work does need to be done? Does that work have to be done on site? Can it be done off site? And because of the turnover that we have in our industry and all the vacant roles that our team members are struggling with day to day, can we rethink a better model? Because especially third-party operators who are always being asked to do more with less, now with AI and automation, we can do more with less. And it's exciting to see how different operators are leveraging the technology to create business models that really allow their on-site teams to focus on the customer experience, knowing that they've got these tools that are allowing them to rethink work that might be done offsite now.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of our teams, just exactly what you were talking about, the leasing agent, the sales expert becomes frustrated answering the same question over and over again. How many times a day do you hear, what's the application fee? Or what is this for? And so I think that really takes a lot of the mundane responsibilities off of them and allows them to really elevate themselves.
Yeah.
So I really think that's a great way to look at it and a great way to move forward with the vision of EliseAI. So how does your role at EliseAI help bridge client needs with technology and innovation?
Yeah, I love my role. I jokingly say that I've got the best role at Elise because I get to work across operators, across departments. And what really excites me is getting to work with third party or owner operators on just how, number one, how can they leverage the technology? How can they get over the fear? So a lot of my work is just around change management more broadly. How do you get the buy-in from your team members? How do you get them excited about being able to essentially manage an AI agent just like they would manage a leasing agent? Because we see the future of work as managing both the technical skills of managing tools and technology and the soft skills of managing people and coaching people. So a lot of my role is helping operators look at, once you've got the AI tools and you're seeing the value that they're bringing, how can you take that second step to say, how can we rethink what our staffing looks like on site, what our central teams might look like off site, what data might go to a regional manager versus directly to an ownership group, especially as we've got new insights on how people are working and how efficiently are they working that are allowing, especially third-party operators, to better differentiate themselves and give some new KPIs that we just didn't have access to before in the industry. So that's what my role a lot is. It's a little bit change management, it's a little bit technology, but it's all through that lens of how can we make property management a more attractive industry for the folks working in it and better provide data and insights on how we're working and how efficiently we're serving our customers.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, because I think people really think oftentimes that it says AI, that means it's hands off. There's nothing else that has to be done, but really it still needs to be heavily managed to make sure that it's functioning in the proper way. So I think that's wonderful. So many operators hear centralization and they think of cost savings, but strategically, what larger opportunities does centralize unlock, you feel, for property management?
Yeah. Savings for sure. I think it introduces just new efficiencies that lends itself to some payroll savings. But beyond that, it could be efficiencies in how quickly is work being done. One thing we point to a lot, and we've just done a great report with our partners at Grace Hill about the improvement on the resident experience when they have 24/7 support, when they're able to get immediate questions. I think that's where our industry has really fallen behind, despite us working in the housing industry, something that everyone needs, and that residents are now accustomed to frustrations around housing because I can go on DoorDash and see where my food delivery driver is. I can go on Amazon and see where my package is right now, but I often submit a work order and I have no idea when that's getting served. So we see a lot of opportunities to say, how can we improve the customer experience with quicker responses, often AI supported by centralized teams, because when the AI does have to hand off, we want to hand off to the person who is best suited to support that renter at that moment in their journey. And where we've found some efficiencies is passing off to the on-site team. They are often limited with, we see it all the time, right? Leasing agent is there, that an individual walks up to tour, they've got that appointment, but the phone is ringing. So automatically they're torn between the customer who's there for an appointment and the person who's calling in. What if we could route that call somewhere else? Someone else off-site could answer that phone call and answer questions, improving the team member experience. They're not tied or torn between the two customer needs they have at the moment and the experience for that prospect who's there to rent. So we see benefits across the team member experience and the renter experience, as well as the cost savings. And it's been exciting to see how operators of different sizes are creating their centralized models to really allow them to focus on the customer experience that everyone in the industry wants to focus on. We're just often limited because of the long lists of tasks and responsibilities that our on-site teams have to do on a daily basis, aside from helping their customers.
Amen.
Yeah.
It sounds so easy, just service the person in front of you, but there's so much more. And you're right, there's a long list of tasks, and something that could help them prioritize that would be invaluable to our teams. So in your opinion, is centralized inevitable for multifamily, or will there always be space for a decentralized model?
I think there'll be space for both. We already see differences between how does a Class A luxury high-rise operate versus a Class B suburban asset? How does student housing operate different than affordable or mixed use? And our hope is that we just now have different models that we can follow as we're utilizing technology to break this one agent per every 100 unit ratio and allowing folks to move beyond that. It's just creating opportunities for different staffing models. And sometimes that might mean a leasing agent is able to split their time across multiple communities, giving them opportunities for more commission and more sales opportunities to hopefully keep them in the business. And for others, it might be an entirely high touch model on site for that Class A asset. But at least now we're opening the doors to different means of operating so that operators of all sizes have kind of the menu of options that they can choose from now, depending on what their renter base needs, what their team members need, and what's their positioning in the multifamily housing industry.
Excellent. So across all the different asset types that you just mentioned, is there a specific demographic or user that you feel relates to the AI better on the resident side?
Yeah. I think there's this perception that it's younger generation who are going to be more inclined to want to communicate with AI. But what we find in practice is that most people don't know that they're communicating with AI. And especially as we're seeing other industries rapidly evolve their business models, where you're interacting with AI tools, not just with other industries, but on your own, interacting with ChatGPT or Gemini on your phone is just going to very rapidly change how we experience customer service. There's this inclination that it's going to lend itself to younger industries. That's where I came from. Majority of my career has been spent in student housing, and I'd say that's very much the case. But even older generations who prefer phone calls, our industry does not do a great job of answering those phone calls. And so what we'll find is often folks will talk to voice AI on the phone. They might say, I want to talk to a representative. But when they explain to the AI what they're calling about, and the AI is able to understand that and provide a response, before they know it, those callers are in a conversation with the AI, even though they might have said representative to begin with. So part of it is consumer behaviors of just interacting with a different type of technology that they've never interacted with before. And our hope is we're moving beyond the press 1 for this, press 2 for this, and just having more human conversations to help with that adoption.
Wonderful. So what are key signals that an operator is ready to successfully move towards centralization?
Oh, this is a good one, because I think there's this perception that it has to be a certain portfolio size, or we have to have this geographic density. What I found in practice in my past 2 roles at BH Management and Cardinal Group, and now have to coach folks through this, is really the signifiers, if you're ready, is how standardized are your operations? Because most groups will find once they start to centralize that, all right, we've got a plan. These are the tasks we're going to move off site. These are the roles that are going to be impacted. And then when they put that plan into practice, they find that, actually at community A, the assistant manager does this work, but at community B, it's the community manager. They do a slightly different process at community A than at community B. So my mantra always became, we've got to standardize in order to centralize. I can't tell you how many times I've said that.
That's so cute. Yeah.
But so we provide some resources on things like activity mapping, just to help give an initial sense of who's doing what work today, how much time are they spending on tasks that we can either automate or could easily be centralized to help lead the pathway there. But that's typically the hurdle that most folks have to get over first, is overwhelmed once they start to realize, our operations are a little bit more scattered than I thought, or that I would like them to be. But often that presents another opportunity of the benefits of centralization to really tighten up those operations, standardize things that should be standardized, so you can start to customize the resident experience on site.
Yeah, that's what we've found, that you have more of a control mechanism with it, really, because sometimes you're a little distance from what is actually going on day to day with everybody, and it gives you more control over those activities.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate between true centralization versus just layering technology on top of existing inefficiencies?
It's typically that second step to say, all right, once we've layered on the technology, I've seen it firsthand myself several times of things like, I would deploy leasing AI, and my on-site teams would say, the AI is booking tours outside of our office hours. And we'd have to calm them down a little bit and say, all right, the AI is just not doing that on its own. It's coming from somewhere. And so we'd often find, that's because we'd update the property hours on the property website, and we'd update them in Google, but no one was updating them in the PMS. So our single source of truth was incorrect, and that's what the AI is using. So I think that's most folks' kind of first experience is we're introducing the AI. It's going to find some inefficiencies or some inaccuracies that exist, and it gives you a chance to jump on those quickly. But then I see centralization as the second step beyond that, that as the AI gets to work and you think of it as this is a member of our team who we are coaching and providing information to, and just a new hire, it's going to innately get better over time. Once they have that experience and see that the volume of work is dropping, we see centralization as that next step to say, okay, how can we rethink our hours of operation? How can we rethink what our team members are doing on site, or what does that team look like on site versus off site? So I'd say a two-step process that most folks a lot of operators have introduced AI here in the past few years. And I've seen a huge swing in the number of groups that I work with coming into 2025 that might have said, centralization isn't our model. Sure enough, cut ahead a couple months once they've seen the value that the AI can bring and the feedback they get from their teams to say, all right, now we're ready to rethink the staffing model after all, just because it lends itself to how can we do things differently? How can we improve areas of focus, all with the goal of improving the resident or prospect experience?
Yeah, I like to tell our people, think about it like your own personal assistant.
Yeah.
It's not going to get the commission for the lease. So let's teach it to do what you need so you can do more of what you do great, which is talk and respond and be live in person with the resident that the AI can't do. So that's how the approach that we've taken.
Yeah, exactly. Coach it so it can be answering all the emails while you're just going tour after tour, not having to feverishly go and send that follow-up or answer a lead in between.
All the mundane tasks, it takes them away from you.
Yeah.
So what does a centralized staffing model look like in practice, and how does it change the day-to-day responsibilities of the on-site team?
Yeah, we typically see centralization bucketed into leasing tasks. So think lead management, managing inbound phone calls or handoffs from the AI tools, sending post-tour follow-ups and answering questions. Some down funnel leasing administrative tasks. So application screenings, verifying documents, generating leases. Think all the things that you're working in your CRM or you're answering phone calls that don't necessarily need to be done on site. So we got the leasing bucket. Administrative bucket are typically rent collection, invoice processing, vendor credentialing, financial reporting. My centralized teams in the past were doing reclass and accruals and variance reports and accounting month end, and all stuff that probably in the past they were told, go in your office, close the door, and do this thing, which if they're going in the office to close their door, but they could be doing that elsewhere. So administrative being that second bucket. And we're actually seeing an uptick in maintenance, the third bucket, a little bit different in structure because obviously a lot of those technicians have to be on site to do that physical work. But for maintenance centralization, the focus is how can we turn that maintenance supervisor, who right now is community specific, and translate that into more of a regional manager type role, a maintenance supervisor who might be over 3 to 5 assets, especially if they're geographically close to one another, just with better insights and automating some work that they might otherwise be doing on site, like assigning work orders or reaching out to third-party vendors. So those are the 3 buckets that we tend to see them in, and our product suite is built to how can we support those teams, all with the goal of refocusing what the on-site team does. So it's all in-person experiential work. How can we make it so that leasing agent is just focusing on tours because they have a centralized team managing inquiries and phone calls and application processing? We've even seen folks say we're going to move our community manager to an experience manager or start to incorporate the word experience into job titles. Number one, so they can attract better talent and show that focus, but also to help reinforce that this is a different type of role than they've done in the past. And those bullets on the job description are a lot more focused on in-person interactions, the resident experience, and creating that sense of community that we all strive for, but is a challenge when they've just got a long list of to-do items for the day.
Okay. One thing, I was actually at a conference recently and I was hearing one of my peers just go on and on about the success of putting in centralized for renewals.
Yeah.
The centralized AI. So can you tell me a little bit about how that has really changed for the renewals and why that works so well in addition to the delinquency piece?
Yeah, renewals are interesting because we would all love to be more proactive about our renewals than most of the industry is able to. Obviously, if you're a leasing agent on site and you've got those tours coming in and your leads that you've got to follow up with and the phone call is ringing, how often do we have dedicated time in the day to say, all right, I'm going to work on those folks who are 120 days out from their lease end date? So enter Renewals AI as a product that starts communicating with a current resident based on their lease end date. So you can trigger it at 120 days out or 90 days out, whatever that renewal timeline is for an individual asset. To number one, just get some basic insights from the individual. The AI will already know from its conversations, is Jacob happy? Am I using positive terminology? Am I angry? Am I using negative terminology? So we've already got a sense of the sentiment, and now we can start having those renewal conversations as well to both prompt a renewal offer, remind them about the renewal offer, answer questions about the renewal offer. We recently launched functionality where the AI can actually generate a Blue Moon renewal lease to be able to take that one step further. And the biggest value add that operators have seen is just the time savings. If you're able to hear from a resident 15, 20, 30 days sooner, whether or not they're going to renew, you've got better insights into what your future vacancy might be or your future occupancy to help with price setting. So a lot of uncertainty around renewals. And our hope is that with the time savings of being able to be more proactive, we're giving you that time back to help with your strategy.
Wonderful. How can companies balance centralization with the needs for hyper-localized service and community building?
Yeah, I think it's giving that on-site team time back in their day to focus on those things, right? I'm of the age where I was training my leasing agents of you need 4 or 5 follow-ups per prospect. It's at 24 hours and 48 hours and 72 hours. That's gone out the window now, where we're seeing data where it's taking 6, 7, 8 touch points per prospect because our phones are built to distract us, right?
Yes.
And so we got to cut through the noise on our follow-ups. So even things like that, we'd look to say, great, if AI can handle those follow-ups, if your centralized teams can manage more of the repetitive administrative work, even on things like screening that application or generating the lease agreement, it's freeing up time for the on-site team to focus on that person who's in front of them and their actual needs. We haven't really changed the ratio in forever, even though leasing agents just used to be doing leasing, but now they're also doing your social media accounts and they're doing your TikToks and they're like the face of the community digitally. How can we give them time back in the day to also be that face of the community on site? So that goes back to what I referenced on even changing the job descriptions or the titles to reinforce that we want this new community manager role to be focused on experience. And that lends itself to saying you're going to be a community experience manager now, which also just opens up the doors of the types of individuals you could hire from other industries are more similarly customer service focused to expand the group of people that we can bring into the multifamily housing industry.
Great. And on-site roles are being rescoped or reproduced. How are we training the next generation of community managers?
Yeah, I get this question all the time. And it's totally understandable, right? Because most operators are starting with the assistant manager when they're centralizing. Mm-hmm. And what I've had to say to my teams in the past, and I've heard others say it, so we've got some momentum now, is we've never done a great job of saying, hey, leasing agent who you are social, you are extroverted, you are a salesperson by nature, your next role is to go be an assistant community manager.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah, where you're going to be a bookkeeper and do finances. And then if you can manage that, you're going to get everything on you.
It's a weird trajectory. Right? It always has been.
Yeah, and so our hope is that, and I'm seeing this even with my former team at Cardinal Group, now we can actually do specialized training to say, you want to be a community manager, here are the courses that you need to take and do some specialized training for that. I look at things too. There's a great study that NAA did in the Voice of the Property Manager survey from 2024 that showed that 22% of on-site team members said dealing with difficult and abusive residents is the most difficult part of their job. But we don't have time or the resources to train community managers on things like conflict resolution or de-escalating that really angry resident who might be in the office. Those are the soft skills that we can't train for because we're so busy training on the technical skills and things changing in our platform. So as folks are centralizing, we're coaching to say, hey, utilizing the AI tools and what to do in the platforms and what process to follow, that is great for the centralized team. So we can instead focus trainings, the community managers of the future can get trainings on soft skills and people management and conflict resolution to help set them up better than they were able to currently.
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. The natural progression was always that sales expert, assistant manager, which really those jobs have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't prepare that person for that next role. So this really gives us true community managers that we're finally trying to get to in our industry.
Yeah.
So we'll shift to technology and data.
Okay.
Okay. So AI is often positioned as a cost savings tool, and that's what all my clients, the only thing anybody they care about. How do you see it driving revenue growth and bettering portfolio performance?
Yeah. I feel like I was a little bit better at this in later years of my career. It's definitely become the case since I joined Elise, but I'm always hyper focused on time because I could always go to an ownership group and say, I need a new concession, or hey, we need to relook at these rents. But I can never go to an ownership group and say, can I just have a couple more weeks to do this? Like, I can't ask for that time back. Yes, we'd look at AI tools and say there's cost savings there through efficiencies, but my big takeaway is the time. How much quicker can we get back to that prospect so that if your community is writing back to them at 9:00 at night, answering their questions while the comp next door is said, thank you for your inquiry. A member of our team will get back to you tomorrow. Like, you've locked that prospect in now. So we look at data in terms of how much more quickly are prospects going through this lead to lease funnel. Are we able to speed that up so that every person is renting more quickly? And that's time savings that are going to impact your future occupancy, your future vacancy, and your rate setting. Same things on renewals as we talked about, or quicker responses to residents about their maintenance needs, leading to higher resident satisfaction, hopefully leading to higher renewal rates. So there's lots of ROI metrics that we'll coach people through, but it is something new because I was never of the position where I had to talk to an ownership group and say, here's the ROI of my leasing agent on site.
Yeah.
But even though we've had tools now who are doing some of that work, minus the touring and the in-person stuff, it's a different type of ROI than we've talked about before. But I'd say the time savings and the efficiency gains and the improvement in the customer experience. We look at data like we've done with our partners at ALN to show that automating lead management with EliseAI resulted in a 2% improvement in occupancy relative to nearby comps. This was a study of over 3,700 communities that we did to say, yeah, when you're getting back to prospects immediately, regardless of the time that they're looking, and you don't have that variable of the hours of operation or which leasing agent was working on site, or do you have a full leasing team? When you take those variables away and you automate that, it lends itself to improved asset performance in addition to the time and efficiency gains.
And that 2% in occupancy is ROI huge for people, especially we're primarily in the Sun Belt with a lot of our assets, and it's so saturated in those markets. Having that extra 2% on your competitors is it's a night and day difference for us. It's a game changer.
Yeah. I would often, when I was a client of Elise's, I would ask them, we have these mapping tools where I could say, hey, give me a map of every community in Dallas-Fort Worth that has EliseAI on it. And I could bring that to my owners and say, this is who we're competing against now to, if we're going to be the ones that says a member of our team will get back to you tomorrow when our two comps down the block are leasing 24/7, it makes a difference on how that asset's performing, and it sets different expectations for the renters too. So I think 2025 has been a really tipping point year for AI to be seen as a baseline piece of the operations, and it's how are now operators growing beyond that to either rethink what the team is doing or start to centralize or just start to build their operations around automation rather than just layering it on.
Yeah, I feel like 2025 is all about understanding how to utilize your prompts.
Yeah.
And that's really where we are with everything. It's just how do we manage the AI? Okay, so Centralize creates a single hub of data. How are you leading operators leveraging that data for decision making?
Yeah. We've got really interesting data that I've never seen before. When I'm accustomed, I can go pull from any PMS or CRM, like my agent activity report to say, Jackie sent 10 emails, Jacob sent 10 emails, what were we doing on site? But what's missing from all that reporting is that time variable. Did you send those emails in 10 minutes versus it took an hour for me? How efficiently are we working? So some of the reporting that we'll provide are obviously what is the AI doing? So what's the automation rate? What percentage of the communications can the AI handle entirely? But also things on how efficient are the on-site teams. So some of our agent reporting shows how quickly is one team resolving their handoffs versus another, or across all of the handoffs that are taking place, how much time is the on-site team or central team spending on rent collection versus leasing versus renewals versus maintenance. That's really insightful to be able to see, all right, if we've got an asset that might be performing well on leasing, but their rent collection isn't great, I can go pull up a dashboard that says, yeah, they're spending 50% of their time on leasing and 10% of their time on rent collection. Is that any surprise then that rent collection is falling? So some new insights on how work is being done, not just what work is being done, is what we're focused on now to help operators introduce new KPIs to measure efficiency and to allow them to leverage those KPIs into stories with their ownership groups about every operator's doing similar kind of work. We've all got to do the variance report. We've all got to provide those leasing reports. But if you can be that operator that says, here's how efficiently our team is working. Here's how quickly we're getting back to people. Here's how we're allocating our time to make sure that we're reaching your goals for the asset. It's just allowing operators to now have different types of conversations with their owners to be that strategic partner that we all want to be.
Absolutely. It's really important for us as a third-party operator to really understand the prioritization. And it sounds like that's really the leverage that you're going to have with that dashboard and that data.
Yeah.
Where should we prioritize? Delinquencies down. How can we only be focusing on 10% of that?
Yeah.
We have to increase that. And it's not personal. It's just data, which I love.
It's just data to give you insights.
I can't say that enough. It's not personal. It's just data. So what does success look like when centralization is powered by AI? And how do you measure it beyond operational KPIs?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the first one there. Is I think what's often, again, I think a KPI that we're not accustomed to tracking is just team member satisfaction or team member retention. I saw this firsthand where my centralized services team, I lost one person in 2 years as I was growing a team from 1 to 35 people by the time I departed. And that one person left because she said, this isn't for me. I can't do multiple communities like this. Very different than that on-site model. So even looking at KPIs like how well are we retaining our employees? What's that employee experience like versus the team members that they were coming from those roles previously? Great indicator of, are we building the types of roles that our team members want and that are going to lead them to stay in the industry? And I apologize for I forget the first half of the question because I jumped on that second one.
No, what does it look like when centralization is powered by AI?
Powered by that's an exciting part, I think, for folks who are in the roles. I train my teams to say, all right, you're a centralized, my team, we had customer accounts specialists. And those titles were purposeful. I put customer in the front of it because I wanted them to remember that you are here to serve the customers. And so our customer accounts specialist, I train them to say, you're essentially managing an AI agent at your 5 different properties. Just like you're a regional manager managing 5 community managers, you're an offsite individual managing an AI agent at these 5 properties. And just like that regional manager, you've got to coach those AI agents. You've got to coach them on what to say. When they raise their hand and want to learn more, you got to be the one to do it. So you've got to find efficiencies in those AI tools with the goal of they become better over time. They are able to automate more. And you, as that customer account specialist, you get to do less because you've now coached the AI tools to be able to do more work. And so for some operators, that means, great, that centralized specialist can go from 5 properties to 6 because they're good at coaching the AI tools. That's what excites me about it too, is it's a different type of thinking or different way of thinking about their work and a different type of work entirely. But that's how we often coach central teams to say, you are managing the AI tools. It is not set it and forget it. As you noted, they can get better over time, but it takes that coaching, all with the goal of being more efficient, giving those immediate responses, and then freeing up that central team member to do some of the work that only they can do. Because my customer account specialist in AI was not going to do their variance report or their accounting month end, and wouldn't they have wanted more time to be able to focus on those high value deliverables, utilizing the AI to answer some of those simple questions. So that's typically how we'll frame it to folks to think about managing AI with a central team.
That's wonderful. It's very helpful for people. So what are some of the common mistakes operators make when attempting to centralize, and how can they avoid them just as people start on this journey?
Yeah, I think biggest mistake is not planning the communication side of it and not as much focus on the change management that's required to make it successful. It's often cross-departmental leaders that we see jumping into this. So somebody from operations who understands kind of the work that needs to be done and who's doing what currently, maybe some IT or systems or applications leaders as well, who are often involved in utilizing the tools. We often don't see enough folks at the executive level leading that conversation to say, here's why we're approaching centralization, here's what we're looking for it to solve, and here's how I'm going to keep you in the loop as a result of it. That might be a cliche answer to say it's change management, but
no, it is though.
Yeah, it's understandable. And we've got a team now, our strategy team, that is built to help operators implement that. So we've actually put together, these are our best practices for our centralization playbook. We launched this last week at our centralization summit. We're releasing the whole 300-page book at OpTech this fall, but it's packed filled with some of the best practices or recommendations or things to think about in advance. My favorite section is the change management section because it outlines, here's what your executive team should be communicating, here's what your department leaders should be communicating, here's what your regional managers should be communicating, and here's how you pull things together like an FAQ document or proactively answering some of those questions that we are going to get to make sure that all of those team members and all those departments are consistently communicating the why, the what, and the how behind it. But that's typically the biggest obstacle that we see, that if we can get ahead of that, it makes everything easier down the road.
I love that you've created a playbook.
Yeah.
I might be asking you for that playbook.
These are for you, Jackie.
Great.
So, yeah.
What a great gift. Because honestly, yeah, you cannot have enough awareness and understanding when you're implementing a new rollout or a new product.
Yeah.
So what are the long-term risks if an operator resists centralization while competitors are embracing it?
Yeah, it's especially for third-party operators, we're all being asked to do more with less. There's lots of costs, from insurance to utilities to taxes, that we can't control. And so we see the risk of, especially among fee managers, that, if there's a competitor who's offering a operating model that lends itself to reduced costs and better NOI because they've pursued a centralized model, hopefully they're able to attract and retain better talent as well. How does that third-party manager who is a traditional model, who's not leveraging the technology, be able to compete? And I mentioned an uptick here in 2025, but that's been a big indicator we've seen as well. More third-party managers who are coming to us, or we're proactively collaborating with them on helping tell that story to ownership groups and rethink, what does that business pitch look like, so that they can move beyond the fear that some owners have of what happens when I go from 3 people on site to 2, to instead show them, here's actually how that work is getting done. We're able to do it quicker. We're able to provide better responses because the folks who are responding are specialized. And by the way, it's cost savings there too. So we're at this tipping point now where AI is only going to get more advanced. The opportunities for automation are only going to grow. And those who are getting on board with it now are hopefully finding new ways to work and new ways to attract and retain talent while differentiating themselves from their competitors on how are they operating and how costly is that third-party operating model versus what it's had to be in the past.
Yeah, and we're really focused on trying to learn how to manage it, because it's going to be a little bit different. Like, how do we get it to do exactly what we wanted it to do?
Yeah.
All right, so this is just a future question here. Your opinion.
Yeah.
We won't hold it against you, but we may play it back for you later, okay? Fast forward 5 to 10 years, how do you see centralization, AI, and resident expectations reshaping the multifamily industry?
Yeah. I think AI is going to be there to make sure that we're meeting those resident expectations, especially as other industries develop their own AI tools. In a future state, could EliseAI's AI agents talk to Amazon's AI agents about where that package is, freeing it up so nobody on site has to answer that question, because AI agents across industries are talking to one another in real time to go, how much time savings, right?
Yes, please help us manage packages.
Right? Packages in particular, one that we've got to get
Sounds silly,
done,
but it's a huge deal.
Yeah. I think we look at data often about the rapid adoption of tools like ChatGPT. It took ChatGPT 16 months to reach adoption amongst 33% of US households, whereas it took 7 years for the internet to do that in the 1990s. And so we look at that. I know, right?
It's terrifying, but it's a great
little
fact.
bit, right? But I think it's showing how fast our attention spans are getting shorter. Our phones are built for that. And as such, like, our demands for information are getting quicker. Great that AI can help solve that need. So we see opportunities there to say, how can we just give even quicker responses to things as AI becomes more powerful and as we're able to tap into the AI agents being developed by other industries. I still see a need where there will be someone on site. We work in housing.
Absolutely.
It's the biggest expense. There's always going to be customers who want to have that human interaction. Our hope then is that we're just able to bring down the administrative work and the reporting and the tasks and the to-do lists for those team members so they can be focused on site. So for a future state, I look to industries, I look to banking a lot, where there's groups like Chase and Capital One who are rethinking what their branches look like now. Capital One has these coffee shop banking centers in one, where they want you to come in and have a cup of coffee and sit and do your work in this Capital One environment where you can also get financial help if you need be. Or Chase is moving away from, you're not going to the bank to work with the teller as much anymore, but can you go in there to meet with a financial advisor instead? And what does that physical space look like to meet with a financial advisor versus standing in line to wait with a teller? So it's industries like that I look to outside of housing to say, how can we be better? Maybe it means rethinking what the physical space looks like, but it's at least being conscious of what types of conversations or what types of experiences are going to be having in the office in the future relative to what we're having now. And I think centralization is hopefully a step towards that, to say, if we're able to rethink what work is being done offsite, that naturally lends itself to what does this space need to look like to accommodate the type of work that we foresee happening here in the future.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds and how our leasing offices or how the functions of our teams evolve and change over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob, so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. And I think the future is exciting for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good time to be in housing. It's a tough industry. I think like most, I got into housing and I've stayed in housing because I just loved working with the people. And so that's what I preach about centralization is there any other industry, a professional services industries that has the turnover that we have? None that I can think of. So I hope folks leave this conversation thinking if centralization is nothing else, it's a different way of working to help better serve the people that power this industry. So I'm also excited for the future as a result of what it means for our team members.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.